So, you're a Cleveland Browns fan. Just how big of a fan are you? Do you deserve a seat at the Dawgs Table? Well, you're here, aren't you?
The best fans, the most patient fans in the league.
This is the Dawgs Table.
Touchdown, Shabalaba Hub!
If you're obnoxious, opinionated, over the top, and you live for the Browns...
45-40, run, William, run! 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
Welcome to your new family, the Dawgs Table, an official Dawgs By Nature podcast on the SB Nation and Vox Media Podcast Network. Let's do this. Welcome to the Dawgs Table. Now your hosts, Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo.
Let's go! Let's go!
What's up, everybody? This is the Dawgs Table, and we are a Cleveland Browns roundtable discussion show, and we are presented by Dawgs By Nature. There it goes again. This happened the last time we were live. It's on a loop. It's on a loop. I got to remember it's on a loop. Anyways, we are here to talk Cleveland Browns with you. This is Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo with the Dawgs Table, and we are coming off an exciting win and headed into the unknown, I guess, right? Like an exciting unknown, right,
yep.
Ryan?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, Victory Tuesday, baby. It's nice. You know, I want to apologize to the listeners out there and to the viewers too, because last week I was definitely ill, and that's part of the reason why we had to cancel the episode. So if you were missing us last week, that is why, and I apologize, but I'm back. I'm healthy. We won. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, we were, you messaged me. You're like, dude, I am sick.
It's
like,
not happening.
This is not happening. And, but it's okay. We had a special guest lined up for last week, and we rescheduled, and he's here this week.
Yes.
And we are now part of the SB Nation of Vox Media community, right? We are a Dawgs By Nature podcast, and we have a Dawgs By Nature writer in-house, and I'm excited to introduce to everybody Tom Moore. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We are doing great. Like Ryan said, it's a Victory Tuesday.
I know. Browns win. U.S. wins. Everything's coming up cool for the moment.
Absolutely. Tom, you are a soccer fan, aren't you?
Oh,
Football.
Definitely. Yep.
Football.
Yeah.
But so exciting overtime win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game was surprising in a couple of different ways. Number one, I'm surprised. I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm surprised we pulled this one out. I did not think as I was watching it that was going to happen. The way it happens is insane. Like, this is one that's going to go down for those that were watching is something memorable, especially that Njoku one-handed grab in the end zone. It's picture perfect. We don't know how much it will mean ultimately at this point, but Ryan, if that saved our season and we somehow build off of that and we make a playoff push or even make the playoffs and make a push beyond that, that's going to be insane, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that gives you goosebumps thinking about it. I mean, it was an amazing catch. I mean, Jacoby throws it high. You know, it's definitely thrown high because he's hoping that, the only person who's going to go up and get it is David. And he does the unthinkable. He goes up for an iconic one-handed catch. I mean, the picture that was floating around on Twitter of the still motion of it was just, fantastic. The catch was amazing. Hopefully it's the turning point, man. But if it is, that's he earned his money for sure.
Now, the defense stepped up in this game, and we're not sure what we're going to see this second half of the season, right? Like our defense struggled the first half, like really, really struggled. And, it's kind of like last season, right? Like we didn't start off, I don't know that we started off this bad, but like we saw the defense progress towards the end of the season, and things are looking a little bit better. Tom, were you surprised about this defense? I mean, look, the leading rushers for Tampa Bay were Keyshawn Vaughn and Julio Jones, 15 yards apiece. Chris Godwin caught 12 of 13 targets for 110 yards and a touchdown. But after that, Mike Evans, 2 catches on 9 targets, 31 yards. Julio Jones, 3 or 4 targets for 40 yards. They were just not that effective. Is this a defense that we can look forward to moving forward, or are we just seeing one of the better performances that we're going to see this year? What do you think, Tom?
I think it's probably more of the latter. At this point, this defense is almost play to play. You never know what's going to happen. You kind of talked about last year, and there was some reasoning and some logic behind why they struggled early in the year, because they had something like 8 or 9 new starters last year. So that took some time. But this year, there was really no excuse for the way they've been playing. But they pulled it together. I lost a lot of faith during the game. I think like a lot of people did, after the first quarter when Tampa had almost 60 rushing yards and they came into the game only averaging 70 some rushing yards. It was like, oh God, here we go again. It's gonna be one of those days. But they kept Brady under control. He can't, he didn't hit any big plays. They held it together. And that's we're probably going to get into it here a little bit when we start talking about the new quarterback coming in. But as much as criticism, and probably deservedly so, as the defense has had, in my mind, this year, there's so much pressure has been on them with the inability of this offense to stack touchdowns. We saw that graphic pop up repeatedly on CBS about the last 3 games, how they score on their first drive, then they're going 40, 45, 50 game minutes between touchdowns. And that's a big ask, especially for this defense, to hold together long enough until the offense can finally get its footing. And that's not a knock on Jacoby. I think he's been more than anything anybody ever could have imagined this year. And so, but I think we're going to see a big change coming forward. And thank God Njoku, it finally at the last minute remembered he's supposed to be one of the game's elite tight ends. The kind of catch that you rarely see. Although to his credit, people were I'm sorry, I got to watch my language.
You can say it.
People were bitching about that tight end screen, but if you go back, if Teller makes his block, Njoku walks into the end zone for a touchdown. So it was the right play. It was just bad execution. It was just one of those things where but thankfully they came through in the end, and they pulled out probably one of the more improbable wins that they've had, in a while.
This win was, in my mind, at least, improbable. And it's something we've talked about ad nauseum on the show, and that is Jacoby Brissett at quarterback and the offense's inability to play from behind and pull out a win. Now, in this particular game, it was a single touchdown, a 1-possession game, a single touchdown. It was still a struggle, and it was not Jacoby Brissett's best game, but we did what we needed to do on offense to pull this one out. Now, that was not I don't know how else you throw that pass. He wasn't going to hit him in between the numbers and make that work, right?
No.
But that reception was improbable, right? Like Jacoby Brissett put it where it needed to go. It was just improbable that he was going to bring that down. And that that is one of the greatest catches we've seen. Whether or not it means anything, we'll find out in the future beyond what this game had to offer anyways. But I was speechless, right? Like, Ryan, I don't know about you, but I did not expect to come out of this with an opportunity to win this game against Tom Brady. No. And you know what? This is a game where I saw the statistic. Tom Brady has 218 wins and 0 losses when leading with a touchdown going into the final 2 minutes of a game.
Yep.
Go figure this is the crew. And think about how often it's the Browns on the other end. It's those kind of stats, just go back to the Jets game, teams leading with whatever 50 seconds or whatever it is that it was, they're whatever, it was like 225-1 or something. And it's always the Browns who are on that. The Browns are that team that always makes you see something you wish you could unsee, but finally they did it to another team.
Oh, for sure. It was as soon as they got into the red zone and it was 4th and 10, the cynical Browns fan in me was just like, what kind of stupid play call are they going to put out right now that's going to look terrible? And we're all going to be like, I cannot believe they called that. And then he catches it and I jump out of my seat and I was just like in complete shock. I was like, did this really just happen? They just won this game? Like, are you kidding me right now? So,
and we knew going into this game, for the past 3 weeks, it's been like, all right, we need 2 out of these 3 wins. We lose 2 in a row. And then we're like, all right, like we do have a chance if we just win this game. And as improbable as it was, we did come out of this one with a W. Credit to the rally skunk or whatever you want to give it credit to. It was awesome and we won. But this game makes this season the most Browns season ever. And if you're a Browns fan, you understand this. I know we have Tampa Bay fans watching based on some of the comments we're getting on social media, but it would be really easy to come away from this game with a loss and look towards next year and win the offseason and say, Deshaun Watson's coming back. This is practice from here on out. This is preseason. This is practice. Let's figure this out. See if we can get the defense on track, address the needs in the offseason. We'll win the offseason and we'll have all this hype into, going into the following year. And the Browns come out and they give us hope. And this hope is just, man, it is the best, worst thing ever, right? So we still have playoff chances alive.
Mm-hmm.
Tom.
Mm-hmm.
They showed the graphic.
Mathematically, we have playoff chances alive. Tom, how real are these playoff chances?
I think you look at you look at the next 6 games. There's not a game on there that's not winnable. That doesn't, it's still the Browns. So you still have to preface it. I know it's the Browns, but there's not an unwinnable game on there. The biggest hurdle that they have is they're losing tiebreakers left and right against these other AFC teams. So really their only path is to win the division. And to do that, they're going to need Baltimore to stumble a couple more times the way they did last week against Jacksonville. Cincinnati's got a few hard games, so the Browns could pass them up if they close out. It's so bizarre to think, oh, well, they can, they have to close out the season on a 7-game winning streak. There's no way they can do that. Well, maybe they can. The offense gets a lot better. The schedule gets a lot easier. They just have to take care of those division games. You go 5-1 in the division, you end up 10-7. You just have to hope that, like I said, Baltimore's got to stumble a couple of times, and they don't have too many games left where you would expect them to stumble. But who would have thought they would have lost to Jacksonville last week? But it all starts with when, the Browns got to take care of business. And that starts, this week. That's next week with a sweep of the Bengals. They got it, thankfully they have the Ravens at home, not in Baltimore for that second game. And then, the Saints, Washington, and Pittsburgh to close out the season. It's certainly doable. If nothing else, if they can stack a few wins here, it makes those last 2 home games so much more bearable. Because the one thing, if they'd lost this last weekend, I was thinking about, that last home game, Christmas Eve, the Saints, nobody really wants to go watch the Saints play. And if the Browns are, 4 and whatever at that point, there's going to be 20,000 people in the stadium and it's just going to look bleak. Yeah. But at least now, we got one more week of hope. So just keep that hope going, week to week, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, it remains to be seen whether or not we're going to get another week of hope following this. And that's going to be the common theme that's going to be recurring through the rest of the season. If we continue winning, it's one more week of hope in must-win games and things like that. And, when you look at the division, the Pittsburgh Steelers got a win last night, Monday Night Football. If you're listening to the replay on Wednesday, this was recorded Tuesday night. And, Pittsburgh got the win over Indianapolis. Some attributed that to bad clock management by Jeff Saturday, interim head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. The Ravens have their own stuff to deal with after this past week. Lamar Jackson got himself in trouble on social media following that that loss. So, that was interesting. Oh, this division is not, there's no clear cut winner. There is a path for almost every team in this division. Let's backtrack though, real quick, before we get into the direction and all of that. Jacoby Brissett, 23 of 37, 210 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in this game. Nick Chubb, 26 carries, 1 touchdown, 116 yards. We are undefeated when Nick Chubb has 20 plus carries, and he is over 1,000 yards for the year. Kareem Hunt, only 5 carries for 15 yards. That is 3 yards per carry for anybody that's counting. He was the 4th leading rusher. Amari Cooper, 7 receptions on 12 targets, 94 yards. David Njoku, 5 receptions on 7 targets, 29 yards and a touchdown.
Amari catches that 3rd down ball and he's over 100 yards again.
Mm-hmm.
That was an uncharacteristic drop.
Yeah, for sure.
From Amari Cooper.
Oh,
he
yeah.
recovered.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But that was another one of those moments where it's just like, okay,
yeah,
it's just not their day. This
Yeah.
is when he drops a pass like that, there are other players on the team that it doesn't surprise you when that happens. But when that one, it's just like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So I got to say this about Jacoby Brissett. And I've been one of I'm gonna do this just because if we decide to chop this up, I want to be clear. I don't ask to be the center of attention very often, but here we go. Jacoby Brissett, I have been one of his biggest critics. Ryan, would you agree?
Yes.
Yes. Like Ryan's like, yes, please. By far, you are one of his biggest critics. It's unfair. Jacoby Brissett overachieved and outperformed any expectation that I had for him this season. We went through these first 11 games, and while it doesn't reflect in the wins and losses, Jacoby Brissett played as well as anybody could expect him to play. He finishes out this 11-game stretch with an argument that statistically he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL through these first 11 games. Do I believe that that's who he is long term? Is there a quarterback controversy, things like that? No, not really. But listen, Jacoby Brissett did everything anybody asked him to and more. If you were expecting more out of Jacoby Brissett, you are delusional. And this is literally like the best way it could have happened, and he goes out with a win. This was like his Super Bowl. He was quoting Tom Brady, after this game. This was such a way for him to go out. And I think everybody as Browns fans will agree that he goes out as one of the more likable quarterbacks that the Browns have ever had. And, it's tough not to root for the guy. Even though I'm a critic, I've rooted for the guy. And it is very satisfying to see him go out on top. There are other reasons that these 11 games where he has been tasked with leading this team on offense, there are other reasons why these didn't translate into wins. And that's something we all need to understand. So I put myself on the big screen. Ryan, I'm sure you understand why. Because these are all things that I've been, this was long overdue. I told you I would evaluate Jacoby Brissett objectively after he completes his tenure as the Browns starting quarterback. Would you believe that A, everything I said is fair, and B, that he did everything he was asked to and more?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had us in position to win many games. Like you said, there were other factors in most of the games, and it didn't reflect appropriately into the wins and loss column. But I mean, the guy was, he was lights out at times, and he was very, very good for us. And it was awesome to watch because it couldn't have been a better story for him. Could have been a better story for the situation that we found ourselves in. So just to see him succeed was nice because he is a likable guy, and he's a really good person. It seems like, and it was cool to see him go out like that for sure.
Tom, comments on Jacoby Brissett's tenure as the Browns starting
Yeah, a
quarterback.
couple of thoughts. Before the season started, we did a group story over at Dawgs By Nature predicting the Browns record. I was mocked by saying the Browns were going to be 7-4 with Jacoby, but the defense doesn't collapse against the Jets. The defense doesn't let the Falcons run just unchecked all over them. The defense doesn't let the Chargers run all check over them. And guess what? They're 7-4, and I'm sitting pretty right now. Yep. So I'm just going to put that out there, for the record. But he's the kind of player. I've been a Browns fan probably far too long. It's probably unhealthy how long I've been a fan. And really, there are guys that are really good. There are guys that are getting by on less skill. And all I really want is just see, as a fan, if they go out and they just give the effort and just give the best you have, that's really all you can ask for as a fan. And I think Jacoby checked that box for sure. He went out there, he did the best he could do. He's limited. The whole league knows he's limited, but they had that offense rolling. Stefanski had that offense rolling at 25 points a game, for a long time with a guy who's a career backup quarterback. And that's, got a lot of hope for the future. And one other thing that just fell out of my head that you were talking about, shoot. But yes, very pro Jacoby. Love everything he did. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was going to throw a question out to you guys. So now that we know what he is and what he can do in this offense, do you approach him to bring him back to be Watson's backup for the next 2 years? All right, knowing that you probably can't afford it, but what you have, and it's a great protection.
You read my mind in a way, because I was about to ask, what is Jacoby's role in the NFL following this season? So in my mind, yes, you do whatever you can within reason to bring Jacoby back to be the backup to Deshaun Watson. Now, nobody knows when an injury is going to happen or how that happens, but you want a guy like Jacoby to be your backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. Has Jacoby Brissett done enough to earn a starting job in the NFL? I don't know. I think we've seen a ceiling. I think we've gotten as much production out of him as we can. I don't know that there's much room to go up from where I literally think this is like the best case scenario Jacoby, right? Like we got the most out of him. Ryan, maybe you'll disagree. I'll give you a chance to answer this, but yes, you do absolutely everything you can within reason to bring him back. Now, if somebody wants to come in and swoop in and give him a Tyrod Taylor contract like the Bills did, and give him a bunch of guaranteed money and pay him $50 million and this and that and the other, like you have to let him walk at that point.
Exactly.
But within reason, if nobody else is looking at him as a starting quarterback, and I don't think that they will necessarily, yes, you do everything within reason to bring him back. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I'm more than willing to give him a couple extra million to keep him around if that's what it takes. He's everything that you want in a backup quarterback. He's mature. He's a good leader. He's cerebral. He's going to know the plays. He's going to run the offense the way that you need him to. But he is limited, like Tom said. But most backup quarterbacks in the league are backup quarterbacks because they're limited in some way or another. So, I mean, he's not over the hill. He's not a washed up backup that's, can't throw the ball downfield anymore. So, I mean, I'm definitely for bringing him back if they can get him back. I wouldn't be shocked to see a couple middle of the road teams calling him to see if some interest in bringing him in as a starter. I mean, like Tom said, he was 7-4 if the defense helps him out in a couple of games. So, I mean, that's not terrible middle of the pack NFL, right? I mean, there's some teams out there that have quarterbacks that are probably worse than him starting right now. So
there's a lot of teams that need quarterback help.
Yeah,
for sure.
It definitely
this could be one of the best worst times though to be in this position, because you have one of the deepest NFL drafts that in recent history right now, coming right to us. Like it's not that far away. We're going to be talking draft soon. And, that could affect where he lands. With that being said, not all of these quarterbacks coming out in this draft are ready to hit the field running and start day one. He could be a bridge quarterback. But I think that what we have to be careful with is, as good as he was, like I said, this is likely where his ceiling is. If he were to exceed that and become a starting quarterback, great for him. Like I never root against anybody, by all means.
Right.
Be that guy. But chances are he's going to be a bridge quarterback or back up somebody. So if he doesn't see a more attractive option, then it's very real that we could listen. We already have 230 million guaranteed or whatever wrapped up in our starting quarterback. Why would you not pay a little bit extra to have somebody like Brissett? Even if it's above market value, you pay somebody a little bit extra to back up your 230 million guaranteed quarterback.
Right.
Because that is all right. This is the first week we're going to get to see Deshaun, and we're going to get into it. But this is the biggest investment ever made in the NFL in one single player. You better have insurance. Jacoby Brissett's the guy,
For sure.
in my opinion.
Yep.
Right. Because you don't want to have, the first quarter of a game, your quarterback go out with a concussion, and then you're trotting Kellen Mond or, Josh Dobbs out there. And it's just like, oh, crud. But, there's only so much money to go around. But that's where I just wonder. And, Brissett, nobody is going to begrudge him if he goes somewhere because somebody, he gets somebody to give him a big payday, because this is probably the last best opportunity he has to get some sort of a payday. But all things considered, there are ways that maybe the Browns could, go test the market and, you got this, but maybe we'll give you, that second year that another team might not. You might get a little bit less money, but you're going to get a little more guarantee, and you're not going to have to move, every year, which has got to get exhausting. Maybe you can put down roots for a couple of years. And like we've talked about, the team now has that protection if something happens, because you just don't want, especially now with the way the concussions are, it's not that, you get a concussion and you could easily be missing, a couple of games.
Right.
And you hit those 2 or 3 games at the wrong time and your whole season's derailed.
Yep. Agreed.
So the Brissett era is over, and this is such an interesting week, and we could probably talk for 3 hours about what we're about to talk about, and that is Deshaun Watson comes back.
Bah, bah, bah! Sorry.
Yeah, right? Like, it's the moment everybody's been waiting for. The results up to this point, the speculation, all those things, it's all over. We know where we're at. We're at 4-7. We're going to Houston. Deshaun Watson, because apparently the NFL schedulers have the crystal ball, is opening this season against the Houston Texans in Houston this week. And it's a dismal Houston team. But I don't know that this game is a layup. Now, initially, I was like, let's see what Vegas says. Vegas will kind of set us straight, take the emotion out of it. Browns are 7-point favorites going into this. It's not going to be a high-scoring game, according to Vegas. The over-under is at like 46.5. We're already seeing
40 of those.
the stories are already coming out. This being recorded on Tuesday, and we already have the stories saying Tony Busby got a suite from Houston. 10 of his accusers are going to come and watch this game. I don't know if any of that matters, but here's what we have right in front of us. We have a top 10 quarterback who was lighting the world on fire the last time he stepped on an NFL field. He was arguably a top 3 or top 5 quarterback the last time he was playing. It's tough being 2 years removed from the game to jump back in and pick up where you left off. And that's why I say he's a top 10-ish quarterback. We don't know what to expect. Ryan, what do we expect?
Oh man, it's a tough one. It's so hard because you don't know how his body's going to react. You don't know how he's going to react to the situation. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of emotion in this game for him. I can imagine. Going back to Houston, the stories that are out there, he's got to kind of put the blinders on and just kind of go to work. So I'm sure there's going to be some growing pains. I'm sure there's going to be some drives that don't look that great. But he is just insanely talented. He is too talented for that to last in the long term. He's young. I just think that this offense is going to be dynamic in the long run. Sure, there will be some growing pains, but this should be a perfect game for him to come in and kind of just try to get into the flow of things. They're coming off of a unexpected win against a really good football team. They're going to be riding a high and coming in against a team that's not necessarily one of the best in the league, obviously, but it's any given Sunday. Teams can beat you. It is the NFL. So, there's that potential for a loss. There's potential for a Browns loss any given week, but I'm excited for it. I think he's going to probably have some moments of bad, but he's going to have some moments of like, oh, that's why we went out and got this guy.
Tom, before I get you on this, I want to throw something in here. And, I was talking to Jared Mueller, and I think it was on the show. Like, our conversations are getting a little diluted, but Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it on this show that Jared said that Deshaun Watson doesn't deal with pressure? Great.
I don't remember, to be honest.
Okay, so here's Jared pointed out something, and I'm pretty sure it was on one of our previous episodes when Jared was on. He's like, listen, I was a huge fan of Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson, but here's one of the things. When he started getting pressure and he started feeling the pressure, he cracked, and it wasn't the best thing for him. How much more pressure could be on somebody than to go to their former team in their house in front of their accusers, as bad as they are, as much as a layup as this should be, and just light the world on fire after not stepping on the field for 2 years? Because there's a lot of things here, right? Like, he's had all the mental reps he could ask for, right? He's had more than enough time to take every mental rep that he would ever need. He's going to be playing in front of his accusers. That is added pressure. He's going to be playing against his former team. That is added pressure. This was his home field. The only thing he knows in the NFL up until this point, that is added pressure. Tom, will the pressure be too much for Deshaun Watson?
No. I mean, the dude went out and beat Alabama. And if you can do that in the title game the way they did it, they'll be fine.
It was an extremely good Alabama team too.
So, yeah, I mean, it's, Nick Saban is the man. Kent State shout out. So, but no, I mean, to me, I think you could not pick a better game for him to come back to get, after not playing for almost 2 years. You're talking about a team that is giving up. The Texans, only the Packers are giving up more rush yards, and it's only by 2 rush yards over they're giving up almost 5 yards a carry. They're giving up 15 rushing touchdowns on defense. This is the perfect game to get him 15 passes, 20 passes, start shaking off the rust, give Nick Chubb a heavy dose, whoever you got to do, get a comfy win, get back into the groove. And then the next 2 weeks, that's when it's really going to hit the fan, when you're going down to the Bengals and going down to Cincinnati. It's not a rough road game. I mean, the Bengal fans don't even want to go watch the Bengals. It's not like they're going to cause an issue. And then you get Baltimore at home. So, he's not coming back into the fire so much on the field. Everything else, the off the field stuff is the off the field stuff. Where I'm not going to touch
Beating a
that
dead horse.
And, talking about pressure, when you first saw pressure, I thought, well, it's pressure, the defense is giving him pressure. So, I did a quick Google search, and I found back in 2019, which is, a little while ago, he actually does pretty well, if I'm reading this correctly. But sometimes the math trips me up, so I won't go too far. But the headline says Deshaun Watson with and without pressure. This is good. So I'm going to take that to mean it's a positive that he can handle, getting pressure. And he's probably never played with an offensive. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's never played behind an offensive line as good as the Browns. As far as I can remember the Texans, it seems like he was always running for his life. So that's going to be a nice change for him. Not have to worry about that as long as they can get tightened up here, because they have gotten a little bit sloppy, especially last week.
Just a little.
Just
a little.
We're trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
It's one of those things too, like where teams, and one of you two alluded to this earlier, like teams know that Jacoby Brissett goes so far, and beyond that you can prepare for other things, right? There's bigger problems that you have to worry about. Nick Chubb, things like that. I think that the biggest thing that's going to benefit our offense is making, if teams respect Deshaun Watson from a mobility standpoint, it's really going to open things up for the run game. And while I don't know for sure at this point whether or not they're going to view him as the number one weapon in this offense, but regardless, they're going to have to respect him in some regard, which should take some of the pressure off of Nick Chubb. In a perfect world, Nick Chubb should be the second focus of the defense, and if that happens, it's lights out. If anybody treats Nick Chubb as the second most dangerous person on this offense, it's lights out, in my opinion.
And here's the thing too, I know people for some reason want to dump on Stefanski all the time, but you watch these games and there are guys wide open all the time. I'm going to go out on a very short limb here and say I am very, very confident that at the most basic skill level Deshaun Watson has is see the open guy, hit the open guy. He can do that. So, and there's going to be open players out there running free in the secondary. And I have full faith that he can, at the very bare minimum, he can do that.
Right. And that's the thing that's exciting about him. And that's there's a different element that he brings to the offense where Jacoby's limited with his legs. He's going to take a sack because he's more likely to get stuck in the pocket than Deshaun is going to be, right? Deshaun is extremely good at making one or two moves, getting himself out of danger and making a throw or making the throw on the run or making a play happen with his legs. So he's a completely different dynamic, and that's where it becomes dangerous for other teams because, when you can't keep a guy in the pocket like that, you have to focus on that when you game plan. Like that's got to be your focus. If you know that naturally he can squeak out of the pocket, you have to be focused on trying to keep him in the pocket for pretty much the entire game. So that takes away some of the things that you like to do on defense as far as pressure goes or blitzing or stunts, because if you're more concerned about the edge of the pocket and him getting loose on a run on the outside and getting 10, 15, 20 yards on a play that should have been a throw, then, you're a little bit less likely to be set in the house on a blitz like you would on somebody like Jacoby, who, doesn't quite have that athletic ability to get himself out of danger in the way that Deshaun does. So, I mean, it's a completely different element to this offense now, and it's going to be really, really exciting to see how Kevin Stefanski can incorporate his skill set.
Exactly. And I guess probably the one thing that I would say maybe I'm concerned about for Sunday is him maybe trying to do a little too much, the moment becoming a little bit more, the excitement taking him over, and just play within the game. Just get this first game in the books. The Browns, I know it's hard to say that they shouldn't break a sweat again, but if there's any team that, not that they can just show up and win, but they should be able to pull out a win against, this Houston team without, having to go down to the wire. But, if he goes out and he starts trying to do too much and all of a sudden, he's got 3 turnovers by halftime and, the wheels are starting to fall off, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, crud. But, just stay in the moment and just, take what's there, get back into a groove. And then, cause you're going to need to be able to get out there and rip it and let loose next week. against Cincinnati, because that one's probably going to be, that one's got a lot of potential to be one of those, 40 plus games on both that you're going to need to score.
Yep.
So, all right. We're about 40 minutes in. We're going to forego the quote unquote overtime show because we haven't landed on an exact name for the show where our viewers can join. This is too good of a conversation. This is all going to be audio only. We have Tom Moore here, Dawgs By Nature, along with myself and Ryan. Let's get into it. I'm going to ask you guys just a couple questions. We'll give our predictions and then we'll close out the show. What is the biggest threat to the Browns in this game to where the tables could be turned? Tom, I'm going to start with you and then we're going to go to Ryan.
Oh, crud. The defense goes out and lays an egg. They come out, and that's the one thing I don't, does this team, it seems sometimes like they get a little ahead of themselves sometimes. It sounds really weird, but they're still, you thought they got over that hump 2 years ago where they figured out how to win, but everything kind of fell apart since then, and they've bounced back. So I think it's just that it's not overconfidence, but it's a little just getting a little too full of yourself, getting a little too big. Okay, we turned the season around last week against Tampa. All we got to do is go out there and do our thing. And if they go out there and play their game, they'll be fine. But we can't be having guys running wide open. They can't be out there, just scoring on that opening drive and then not scoring again until the end of the fourth quarter. It's really just a lot of that, just not getting ahead of yourself, if that makes sense.
All right, Ryan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Tom. I think it's the defense. It's the inconsistency that we've been talking about all season. We just don't know what we're getting every week when it comes to the defense. And the Texans are a capable running football team. Dameon Pierce is a really good young running back. So obviously it's, stopping the run. Can they stop the run so that the pass game doesn't open up? And when the Browns are able to stop the run, their defense operates much better. So, that's probably said with 99% of the teams in the NFL, but it's when they can stop the run, they're able to do much, much more with their defensive schemes. So I would say, obviously, I'm with Tom on this. It's got to be the defense. That's the biggest story of the season so far, is the consistency of the defense and whether or not they show up in a game. So, do they have the pride to ride the high into this game and realize that this is a game that 99% of the people out there in the NFL community are going to say you should win this game handedly? That's yet to be seen because we don't know. So they've got to show up.
All right. So I'm going to kind of go along those lines. And I think the big difference maker is Dameon Pierce, right? And we have been very poor against the run, especially on the road. And Dameon Pierce is very capable, and he's better than some running backs who have absolutely annihilated us. You look at the Miami game, right? Like, that running game should not have been able to put up the kind of production that they did. And Dameon Pierce is going to be the key to the Texans offense. But the other X factor here is they are not starting their normal starting quarterback, Davis Mills. It's going to be Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen has shown flashes to where he can perform and make things happen. He's going to have a fire lit under him. He has something to prove. Davis Mills is not getting the start this week. It is his team. We see sometimes these things light a fire under teams and boost their potential a little bit. So, we have to watch out for Kyle Allen. But Dameon Pierce, like you guys said, Dameon Pierce is the big one. Our defense, if they can contain Dameon Pierce, I'm not that worried about who the other quarterback is, right? We had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, shut them down. We forced them to, we forced Miami to lean on Wilson and Mostert. How did that go?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought that we would have shut down Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? It was more likely headed into that game that we would be able to control their running game. Dameon Pierce is the key to the Houston Texans win.
I agree.
The X factor on our side is Deshaun Watson, obviously, right? Like, we don't know what kind of rust he has to shake off. We don't know how changing the quarterback is going to affect the momentum and the flow of this offense. Has Kevin Stefanski been calling plays with Jacoby Brissett in the game as if Watson would be in there? Does it change the tendencies, the scheme, things like that? We're about to find all this out. So, follow-up question. What do the Browns need to do to win this game? Especially on offense. What do we need to do? What can we expect? Tom, I'll let you go first on this one.
What do they need to do? Same thing they need to do every week. Don't turn the ball over. Don't stop shooting yourself in the foot. And just, stack a couple of touchdowns, drives with touchdowns. Don't, give Cade York the week off. God, please give Cade York the week off.
Right.
Let him or give him a couple of, just let him kick, 3-4 extra points and work on his foot placement and, get a little more chemistry with Boja, the holder, and just play your game. It's there. It's the win is there. If they just want it and they just stay within themselves and, give the ball to Chubb. When in doubt, give the ball to Nick Chubb, and you rarely will go wrong, which is a nice security blanket for anybody to have on offense.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same recipe as it should have been the whole season. 20 carries with Nick Chubb, and Kevin Stefanski has to put Deshaun Watson in a position to succeed. Don't put too much on his shoulders. Don't get too crazy with the offensive game plan in his first game back. Put him in position to be successful with some easy high percentage throws. Don't expect your offense to come out and look like a, college air raid offense on his first game back. Give him time to shake the rust, lean on what you're good at, which is the run game. And you should easily outmuscle this team. So it's the same recipe as it's been even when Deshaun wasn't in. Give the ball to Chubb and, stay within yourself and all will be well.
You don't want a deep pass to Cooper on the very first offensive play?
Not on the very first. No, I would like to see a couple, but not on the very first.
That would be reminiscent of the Cincinnati Cleveland shootout, I believe, with Derek Anderson, where the first pass was that like a 98-yarder? Was that Braylon?
Oh,
Tom,
I think
I'd have to go back and take it. I'll go back and take a look if we got time.
Was that a 50 or 60 something to 50 game? I don't know. That was a high scoring game.
2007.
Yeah, that would have been a Derek Anderson game. But look, I think that this is going to be very interesting because if Deshaun Watson has a very middle of the road game, everything will be calm amongst Browns fans, right? But if he has just a killer game, like if he throws for 3 touchdowns and scores 1 on the ground and he's efficient and doesn't turn the ball over, people are going to be already talking about the Super Bowl, right? If he doesn't throw a touchdown pass, but he throws 2 interceptions and doesn't have anything on the ground, the world's over, right? Like, I think that the biggest thing for this game is just to come out with a win and get some building blocks. I think that some people are going to make the mistake of overestimating what he's going to bring to the table, not having stepped foot on the field for 2 years. Tom, did you pull that up by chance?
Yes, I did. And you're going to love this. Derek Anderson did not complete a pass until almost the end of the first quarter on the Browns. Oh my God, where are we here? 1, 2, 3, their 4th drive of the game. Oh. And then he hit short middle to Kellen Winslow for 19 yards.
Oh man, what year was that? I know I'm not.
Well, I mean, it would. That was the year that the game ended up 50. They won 51-45. He just didn't get it cracking for a while.
I feel like I remember one of those games against the Bengals. First play out came out. Oh, 80, well, that was 90-yard bomb.
Well, that was Bernie to Reggie Langhorne in 86 or 87.
Oh, see, you're talking about before I was born, Tom.
Yeah. So, but you've seen the highlights. You know, I'm not. You know, we're not talking about Otto Graham hitting, you know, Max Speedy here. So,
Right.
You know who I'm talking about.
All right. So here we go. Let's close out the show. Over-unders 46.5. Browns are 7-point favorites. Let's get the over-under and who you're picking. Not against the spread, but just straight up who you're picking. Ryan, I'll go to you first.
I'm going to go with the Browns. I think they follow up. I think Deshaun starts off a little slow, but then he, you know, his second or third drive looks pretty decent. You know, I think it's going to be a more of a conservative game plan for most of the game. I don't think Kevin's stupid enough to put him in a position where he's not going to be successful. So I predict the Browns win. I'm not comfortable on a score in my head yet. Let me think about that a little bit longer, but I do think that they go on a 2-game win streak here and take a really good momentum shift into Cincinnati.
Tom, thoughts?
Yeah, Browns 24-7. It's going to be a comfortable, you know, it doesn't always feel comfortable watching the Browns, but I think this is one of those Sundays where they're just going to slowly, you know, keep on stretching the lead out. And, you know, by the fourth quarter, it's just going to be all Chubb Hunt, you know, for the fourth quarter. They're just going to have a couple, you know, a nice easy Sunday afternoon. So 24-7. So that's the under, but they cover.
All right. Fair enough. I am going to go Cleveland 21, Houston 10. I'll give them 10 points. They're still going to cover. It's going to be the under for sure. The under. I'm not a gambling expert, but take that to the bank, in my opinion. If this becomes a shootout, I'm surprised. But yeah, Deshaun's going to come out and he's going to have some success. I don't think it's going to be quite what everybody thinks. He's got some rust to shake off. And, you know, hopefully he takes some looks away from Nick Chubb and the Browns lean on the run game and they stick with it and they don't abandon it. Don't try to get cute. Spare me the gadgetry. Let's keep building on the special teams improvements that we saw this past week with Jerome Ford and Donovan Peoples-Jones. You know, minus the Cade York missed field goal, our special teams look better this past week. Let's build on that. The defense can't take a step back. We have to keep pushing forward. This is going to be a 3 phases game. 21-10. That's my prediction. Ryan, do you have a score yet in your mind?
27-10.
27-10. Man. All right.
Just a little bit low, a little bit higher.
So, fortunately, there is nothing on the line here. We have our reputations at stake for 1 week and 1 week only.
I burned that a long time ago.
All right.
But all right, Tom. Give me your social media handles, your plug for those listening on the
just
SB Nation of Vox Media Podcast Network via Dawgs By Nature.
Yeah, always hit up Dawgs By Nature. And if you are so inclined, I can't promise anything, but if you want to go on Twitter, it's Tom_RedRight88 is the Twitter handle, which I probably should have put on my little name tag there, but such is life.
That is yeah, definitely follow Tom on Twitter. Tom's one of my favorite follows. We interact often. Ryan Angelo is my co-host. This is Craig Fountain. Ryan Angelo CLE. You can find him on Twitter. And you can find me on Twitter at Craig A. Fountain. As always, you can find man, get a hold of us on social media. DM us, comment on our posts. You know, interact with us. We love it. We absolutely love it. By all means, tune in every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, unless Ryan is sick, and then we'll reschedule. And we will have special guests. We will talk Browns, and we will have an awesome time. We are going to forego the overtime portion of our show. This is it for tonight. Again, this is Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo. Ryan, any parting words?
Go Browns.
Go Browns. Until next week, we will be back next Tuesday to recap the Cleveland Browns versus Houston Texans. I have a feeling it'll be a good one. No matter what.
Yes. Absolutely.
No matter what. All right. We'll see you next week. Until next time, go Browns.
Go Browns.
Thank you.